Happy Thursday, Therapy Flow community. We're excited to chat today. Welcome in, Attilio.
Thank you so much. Welcome in, everybody.
Yeah. Well, if you're here, if you're watching live, leave a comment, say hey, push it out for the people here who need to hear it, want to hear it, and looking for some information. We love to see the interaction. We're going to be talking about an important topic today, and that specifically is the problems in your therapy practice and how to solve them. Every single business owner has problems, and some of them are really big, some of them are really small, and your ability to solve them, move through them, and create a business that flows is the difference between having a successful business and being stuck where you're at right now. So it's an important topic. So we're going to dig in a little bit on how to confront that, how to make that happen, and how to move through it successfully. And we're going to drop some heat along the way. So let's go.
Yeah, I'll get this started because I actually was making a video for you guys yesterday, and the purpose of the video was to just give some empathy and to be a little bit vulnerable. Honestly, yesterday at the end of the day, I felt completely depleted. I felt completely exhausted. About 50% of the day went my way, and 50% I probably could have done way better at. Um, and the brutal, honest truth here is that you're kind of signing up for this because you want something bigger than, or better, or sharper than what you're currently at. Many of you guys are building a business because you want something more. You've got a dream in mind. You've got some kind of passion that you're trying to fulfill. You've got maybe an impact that you want to make. You're trying to do something bigger, right? And so, because you're stretching and you're trying to grow, there comes a lot of problems with that. And so, we don't get to choose the problems that land on our plate, but we do get to choose how we decide to solve them. And in a lot of ways, uh, easy times do not create people of strong character. So if you want strong character, the price that you have to pay is easy times. You don't get those, right? And so, the way that we're looking at this morning is, how can you take complete ownership over the problems in your practice? How can you cut out excuses for reasons why you may fail or reasons you may not be as successful as someone else? How can you ask yourself the big questions to put yourself in a position to succeed in spite of problems, which are inevitable?
I think it's this philosophy of if the problems are inevitable, whether they're unique to you or they are just unique to business ownership, uh, right? It's like, oh, this is something super specific that you only have to deal with. I think COVID is a really good analogy on the other end of the spectrum, though. It's like everyone had to deal with COVID. It affected people individually, affected this industry different than other industries. But at the end of the day, COVID brought a million problems to business owners. And some chose to use that as an excuse to close down or say that marketing was harder, recruitment harder. And we've seen multi-million dollar practices get started and built in that same time frame of COVID. And I think it's with this awareness, and you experience it with your therapy clients as well, is everyone comes with a different set of unique problems. However, everyone, what is required of them still has to show up, look those problems in the face, and grow, move through, and heal through it. And your business, whether it's unique problems or macro similar problems, the thing that's needed is for you to sit with it, solve it, grow through it, because they aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, let's talk maybe about a second on like creating excuses for failure, because then I think that'll segue really well into how to solve the problems. And so I think when it comes down to it, we see this all the time inside of our program, right? No practice is exactly like another practice. The practice owners all have their own unique sets of skills, traits, and habits that are either working well for them or not working well for them. And you can look at other people's practices or look at other people's frameworks and ways that they're developing or ways that they're marketing or ways that they're recruiting, and you can say, they're doing that, I can't do that, and so I will fail. Or you can say, I can do this. And so, how can I make that succeed? And so, rather than looking at elements and saying, this is how I will fail because I cannot, like, hey, I work 40 hours a week. Like, I'm locked into my clinical hours. I can't build business. I can't do business building time. Rather than leveraging that or using that as an excuse for you to fail, how can you find that as a way to find success for yourself? Well, you're probably making a little bit more cash, or maybe that tells you exactly where your problems are existing.
Yeah. I think
I
it's go ahead.
I was just going to give one other example. I've seen this where a client of ours will see that a star practice of ours had a partnership. It's like, oh, they were a wife husband pair, so they had extra hands. They did this, that, and the other, and then they use that as an excuse for them to not find the success that they want. There are solo people who own businesses that find success in their practice all the time. And so you looking at someone else's practice or someone else's unique circumstances and using that as a reason for you to fail, it doesn't make sense to me.
There's a couple ways to look at this even through those analogies. There are the things you can control and change, and maybe you need to control those and change those, right? It's like, oh man, if the majority of business owners are successful because they have a business partner, well, maybe I have to find a way to get a business partner if that's what's required for success, right? Uh, on the flip side, if it's not necessary and I can't have a business partner, I have to find a different and a better way. In some ways, it'd be like, well, oh, that person had a stove to cook their chicken inside of, but I don't have a stove. I'm never going to be successful. Well, do you have access to a campfire or a burner or a hot plate or pre-cooked chicken that you just need to warm up? Like, okay, there's a bunch of other examples. And that same thing needs to play out in your business mindset anytime you come up against this problem of comparison, of saying, oh, I can't, I shouldn't, I won't because of this person, that perspective, this constriction. Well, it needs to get flipped and say, well, do I need to change something or do I just need to solve it in a different way? Because if you aren't going to let go of your goals, and that would be this last option, right? Is you let go of the thing that you're going after, the small or the big thing, right? It's like, oh man, I can't post on social media as much as I want to. Well, you might have to let go of wanting success inside of social media if you just can't do the primary thing that typically gets results through that thing. And you have to approach client acquisition through a different lens then.
Yeah, I I see this all the time, and this is really interesting. I can't remember who said this. Someone said it, but a really important characteristic that you can build for yourself, possibly the most fundamental characteristic that you can have as a business owner, is actually the quality of being unstoppable. Can you develop the quality of being unstoppable? If you really want to find success in the way that you want here, if you really find it that important for you to make $200,000 a year from your private practice, if that's really important to you, how can you be absolutely unstoppable in achieving that? And that kind of leads me into like leading for your organization.
Yeah.
No one is going to lead for you. You are your boss. If you're looking for someone else to be your boss, it's never going to work the way that you want it to, because no one can love your baby like you love your baby. So you have to lead your organization until you can afford someone to lead your organization.
And I think that happens a lot later. And just to be direct here, that's something that Attilio and I are going through right now of saying, oh, if we want other leaders in our organization, we first have to lead in all of the areas we want that leadership to show up in. We sat down this morning and we said, hey, we want leadership in this area, in this area, in this area. And the fact of the matter is we are not doing as much as we can and should be in that area first. How on earth do we expect someone else to have the insight, the intuition, and the ability to be successful in that area? And so it comes back to you. When there's something missing, when there's something that's not working, when there's something that's broken that needs to be fixed, a problem that needs to be solved, who's leading yourself through that? And many of you have small teams, right? Or it's just yourself still. And that's okay. We just know that like you're the one doing the work and that's not going away.
I don't think I have too much else to say on here. I hope that this energizes a few of you guys out there. I hope that it maybe touches just one of you, um, pushes you to maybe just lead yourself a little bit better or develop yourself into the leader that you need to be for yourself. And I hope that this really just kind of stresses on some of the elements. You can find success in your circumstances. You can find success if you're trying to find success. If you're trying to find a way for you to fail, you will find a way for you to fail.
Yeah. And I think the place that I'll end is it's not always obvious that we're doing this. It's not always obvious that we're bucking our responsibility inside of our own business. What it shows up is it's a week later, a month later, and something's not happening, and we're frustrated and we're angry. And if we go revisit the trails of what is taking place, I'm like, I dropped the ball, or I am just not taking the responsibility that's actually needed to say success needs to happen here. I'm not actually taking responsibility of the fact that I should be swapping out my Psychology Today profiles, or that I should be doing outbound connections to try and do recruitment, whatever the action is. Like, well, you need to take responsibility for that. And just to kind of end on a positive note, we see all the time that this mindset needs to get revisited, even for myself and Attilio. So it's okay to be here, and the response gets to be to move out of it. And the cool thing is, usually big things happen in your business directly following taking responsibility, letting go of any excuses, and solving the problems that are in front of you. And that's what I'd say is let go of the excuses, figure out the problems that you need to take responsibility for, and hold yourself accountable to actually solve them. And that's when your business will grow.